Honored to be joined by a J6er, John Strand. You join us. You're running for Congress, but sir, you're a convict. I shouldn't say a convict. In prison, convicts are guys. You were an inmate. You actually spent a year in prison for
That's
J6. Is
right.
that correct?
That's right, Steve. Yes, I'm
So
definitely
why
not a
would somebody
convict because
some but hang on, why would
yeah,
somebody that went to prison for J6? You're clearly an insurrectionist, found guilty by a jury of your peers, or the Biden regime came after you hard.
yeah.
Why would you have the arrogance that didn't run for Congress, sir?
Great question, Steve. Yeah, I definitely was convicted by a poisoned DC jury right in the heart of the problem in our nation. So, yeah, it's definitely time to flip that narrative and get really to the root of the poison that's destroying our country. I think we need to abolish the DC court. It never should have existed, Steve. I think we need to restrict DC, the borders, back down to a seat of federal government and not a thriving elite class that rules over the American people. So yeah, I'm very excited to be running for Congress in Florida 19 at johnstrand.com. I'm running to restore courage, common sense, and Judeo-Christian values back into the government so we can finally end the fraud, waste, and abuse that's bankrupting this nation morally and financially and deliver what Americans actually need, which is security, affordability, and for God's sakes, accountability. So that's what we're doing at johnstrand.com in Florida. And I know the War Room Posse is excited for opportunities to get behind real patriots. You guys, this is your opportunity. It's our nation, it's our country. We have to take it back. And we're not having any apologies, no wavering here. We're going to forge straight ahead into this fight. And you know, Steve, I know you talk about this to the Warren Posse all the time, but the real key here in America, where it's supposed to be government of, by, and for the people, this is the secret here. The war for America is waged at the primary election level. So if voters only show up in November, they've already lost, right? So we have to get really serious, really engaged, and dig into primary elections so that we can actually get behind patriots instead of a continuous cycle of uniparty rhino puppets that just continue the status quo and suffocate the American people. I'm sick and tired of it. I'm sure you guys are too.
John, how many years were you sentenced to prison?
So I was assaulted by an FBI SWAT team, disappeared in jail for 4 days without a phone call, and then charged with a 20-year felony, then given a get out of jail nearly free card of a single misdemeanor plea deal. But I refused. I turned it down because it was a lie. So I went to DC, was convicted by a DC jury, and then the prosecutor asked for 8 years at my sentencing. Now, if you go to johnstrand.com/J6, you will see a 13-minute video that will blow your mind. It's the security camera footage in the Capitol building. It shows every step I took in the building. So watch that and ask yourself, should he have even been in the courtroom, much less in a prison? But they asked for 8 years. The judge ultimately sentenced me to just about 3. And I only served exactly 1 year because I didn't take that plea deal. I turned it down and fought all the way to the Supreme Court where we won and was released after the Fisher decision and served exactly 366 days in a very terrible federal prison in Miami, where they badly abused me for, Steve, you know how this goes. 4 straight months in super isolation. I was cut off from my attorneys, which is wildly illegal. I was cut off from all contact with my family. They even blocked my mail. So the abuses were egregious. And this book that you can see right behind me, Patriot Plea, I really believe this book could inspire the nation to awaken and reignite the patriotism and commitment to civic participation that's necessary to reclaim the republic. But the book will shock you. I detail everything. There's receipts, there's transcripts, the direct lies of the US prosecutor, the direct lies of the corrupt judge in the DC court. It's shocking. So I really encourage people to do,
What
you can
did
find the book now at johnstrand.com/book. But it's going to blow your mind, Steve.
these?
You're in the book
Yeah,
too.
th- yeah, these federal prisons are hellholes.
Oh God,
What did you
you
learn
obviously know.
when you were in prison? What did you learn, and how did that inspire you to come back and run for elective office?
Very good point. I never imagined running for public office, to be honest, Steve. And I've always loved my country. I was raised by great parents on a Judeo-Christian foundation, and I've always wanted to make a difference in my life. But I've worked professionally as an actor, director, model, musician, etc. And it was in a prison cell in isolation with incredible abuse breaking me down, where I came to God directly, or he came to me, I should say. And I realized this is the only way I can survive this, is simply trusting in him, turning to him. And I've had that faith my whole life. It's what brought me to that point. But it was galvanized, like you said, to your War Room Posse, that you galvanize people to not only understand the truth, but to put it into action. So I just had to put it at God's feet and say, God, rescue me from this, preserve me, protect me. And he did. And he whispered into my heart and said, I am calling Christian men to rise up and reclaim this republic by taking positions in public office, because I think that Christians have abdicated their civic duty for far too long. Steve, how many people that claim to be Christian in America even show up to vote in the general? Like massive portions of Christians don't even show up to vote, 30, 40, 50%. So if we just woke up a little bit, we would take this country back in a heartbeat. But God did call me in a prison cell and said, I want you to step forward and run for office. That wasn't on my bingo card or my career plan, but it was God's call. I'm so honored and excited to be pursuing that. And I think each and every one of us has a position to play in the government. You know, church isn't just for pastors, it's for all of God's people building his kingdom. And America is government of, by, and for the people. So government isn't just for politicians. It is for all of us. It doesn't mean everyone runs for office, but everyone has a part to play in this great American experiment of liberty. And it's time for us to take it seriously, and it's time for us to take it back.
Before I let you go, I want to talk about your immigration. Talk to me about, you think immigration is one of the biggest issues. Talk to me about your immigration plan.
Yes, sir. Without a doubt, the immigration scam has completely torn apart the social fabric of our society and our country. It is an evil scheme. We need to completely wake up to this and refuse to accept it any longer. So I am proposing the 2020 Sovereignty Act. JohnStrand.com, Patriot for Congress. We're going to bring this to the Hill without apology or excuse. So we're calling for a 20-year of zero immigration and 20 million deportations. No exceptions, no excuses. We are sick and tired of the lies and the abuse of the American people, the exploitation of the middle class, and simply the erosion of the actual rule of law that's the bedrock of Western civilization and certainly the bedrock of American exceptionalism in our country. And we are sick and tired of the erosion of Americanism itself and our culture, our Judeo-Christian culture, our great traditions, our history, our people. We're a melting pot. We are Americans, all colors, all creeds, all backgrounds, but we are unified by what? By one nation under God. And that makes us indivisible with liberty and justice for all. That's our national promise. So we have to commit to that promise. We have to commit to the rule of law, and we have to reject the immigration scam, importation of illegal voters, and the erosion of our cultural cohesion. It's essential. So we're going to call for at least a minimum 20-year total moratorium on all immigration and visas. We're going to put the American people first. And we are going to accelerate deportation so we can deport at least 20 million illegal aliens. There are probably 30 or 40 million in this country, but we'll start with 20 million over the next 4 to 5 years. Very aggressive pace, which we can accomplish with enforcing E-Verify and enforcing the debanking of illegal aliens. So if you have an FDIC insured bank and you're processing transactions for illegals, you are fined. That will stop real quick, and illegals will deport themselves very quickly. And we can reallocate money.
John,
we're giving, yes.
Yeah, we got to bounce. Send people to your website. I want people to go to your campaign site. I want them to follow you on social media. Where do they go?
JohnStrand.com, and we are on social media at JohnStrandUSA. So just find us at JohnStrand.com, and $26 to win 2026. The War Room Posse can explode this campaign to the front lines and put us in a path to win. We are working hard. We have a chance to win this race and put a real patriot in Congress. So make it happen at JohnStrand.com.
Want everybody to go check it out right now. John Strand, we look forward to having you back, sir. Thank you. Short break. We're going to see how all this starts with the deep state next.
Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, welcome. I want to thank the folks, the team, Glenn and Jenny Story at Patriot Mobile, 972 Patriot. You'll talk to someone with an East Texas accent about the greatest mobile service in the world. That's Patriot Mobile. You tell them you came from the War Room Posse. You get a 1 month free as you do the switch. And this is a company that backs your values. We wouldn't have had this big victory on Sharia law on Proposition 10, and we certainly wouldn't have had this victory down there with the Texas Education Board in the school books. It was not for Patriot Mobile. Glenn's story, Jenny's story, an amazing couple, an amazing company, and they getting back of amazing causes. 972 Patriot. Also, chapter. If Medicare is too complicated for you to think through, and it is, it's that way on purpose. There's $100 billion worth of fees annually that are out there, and the insurance companies wanted to cut their way, and it does with all these kind of consultants that don't make any sense. This is a data-driven company. Just check out. You get a free consultation. 845 War Room. Pretty simple. Set up just for the War Room Posse. 845 War Room. Call today and talk to them about your alternatives when it comes to Medicare. A data-driven company that can show you all the alternatives. 845 War Room. Free consultation just for the War Room Posse. Do it today. Drew Thomas Allen joins us. Drew, I think the last thing people need is another book on the Russia hoax, unless it is a definitive account that ties everything together. You were inspired in Florence, Italy, by a Renaissance painting by, I think, Leonardo da Vinci, The Adoration of the Magi. How does that tie back to writing a new book on this, on the Russia hoax? Because I tell folks, you just had John Strand on here, who spent a year in a hellhole federal prison, and I think, 4 months in solitary confinement, what we call the SHU. That prison sentence is exactly what they wanted to have President Trump and people around President Trump, his entire Russia hoax. Sir, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, look, there have been some wonderful books written about, the Trump-Russia collusion hoax coup, but they weren't beneficiaries of the declassified documents that came about because of Tulsi Gabbard. And so what you were left with was kind of a partial picture of just how bad it was and the actors involved and what happened. And so, yeah, when I was in Florence a number of years ago with my oldest daughter and only daughter at the time, she was 6 months old. Yeah, we came across this special exhibit of that Adoration of the Magi, and it was at the underpainting stage. So it was just kind of a monochrome layer, a blueprint, and it wasn't, you would go and add color. And what had happened though over the centuries is people had actually tried to paint over it to finish the painting. There was all this grime and varnish that actually covered up the blueprint that Da Vinci had put there. And so it underwent this 6-year restoration process, and all that was slowly removed. And you could see this vivid scene before you and a blueprint of a Da Vinci work that you really would never see otherwise. And so the upshot of what Tulsi Gabbard did with much of this declassification is that she removed the equivalent of that grime from this picture that, had been covered up by spin from the media and lies and cover-ups and things that we didn't know and so on and so forth. And so what she revealed and what I reveal in this book is really the underpainting, the blueprint of the Trump-Russia collusion hoax turned coup, and explain it in a way that we haven't understood it before.
Talk to me about, the title of the book is The Clinton Hoax and the Obama Coup. What do you mean by that? What's the hoax part of the Clinton? And you are saying that a president of the United States was in back of a potential coup? Is that your point?
Yes. It's important to remember behind every single Clinton scandal, Obama is so much worse, and he tends to usurp what was Clinton's, whether it was related to Benghazi or later Trump-Russia collusion. So, look, it was a campaign dirty trick. It was a little bit worse than that during an election season in 2016. And the intention obviously was to save Hillary Clinton's candidacy because she came in running for office, her childhood dream of being the first female president. She's power hungry, and she's bogged down in scandals because of her own, impropriety, whether it's the investigation into her email situation, sending classified emails on an illegal private server, or thanks to Peter Schweizer's book, Clinton Cash, the FBI was starting to look into, pay for play while she was Secretary of State. Well, this is going to blow up her campaign, so she needs something that is really extravagant to distract from that scandal. So it's the Trump-Russia collusion hoax. And obviously Crossfire Hurricane, the FBI investigation spying on Trump, that started in the summer of 2016. But Donald Trump ultimately won that election in November. And everyone involved knew that it was not true, that it was totally made up. Um, and it should have ended there, right? I mean, okay, you tried, you gave it your best effort, Hillary and Barack Obama and everyone, but ultimately the American people overcame your hoax and elected Trump. Well, in December, after Trump's already elected, then Barack Obama is the one who gives the order to create the intelligence community assessment, the ICA, and he also gives the order effectively not to include all of the intelligence agencies, but to cherry pick and just use three in order to then sell the American people, give it the rubber stamp of approval from the administration, the official government seal that, yes, Trump indeed did collude with Russia, that Putin did want Trump to win. And so he goes into his first term bogged down, in this what's now a coup, an attempt to undermine the will of the American people to effectively maybe get to an impeachment if they can, but certainly to hamstring his first term.
And you make the case in here. You're sure that you've connected the dots and made the case from documentation that there was actually a coup, that this hoax to try to get Hillary Clinton elected, but he had a disruptor, Trump, who they couldn't poll correctly, and we came out of nowhere to win. That there was definitely a coup. There's no doubt in your mind that you prove here, and the audience will get, if they buy the book, that you prove that there was a coup against a sitting president.
Yeah, there's no doubt left at all if you read the book, and it's all based on, firsthand, documentation, obviously. One of the biggest revelations from the Tulsi Gabbard declassifications is that the Obama administration, the intelligence community, were actually intercepting these Russian memos that were documenting the very things that the Obama administration and Clinton campaign were doing, such as, trying to coordinate and figure out how to make her scandals go away, back channels between Loretta Lynch communicating with the Clinton campaign, giving her updates on her email investigation. And then obviously there's things in these. And by the way, when I talk about these Russian memos, because maybe people aren't familiar, these are basically, these are Russian spies who have absolutely hacked into, our infrastructure and everything else. And they are sending these memos updating Putin, right, the Russian government. So their intent is accuracy on what's going on in American politics during an election season. And the biggest irony of all this, Stephen, is that, the most accurate portrait of what the Democrats, Obama, Clinton, and everyone did with Trump-Russia collusion, it comes from the Russians, the very boogeymen that they wanted to use to try and defeat Trump in 2016. And so, if you think about the Steele dossier, which was the basis of their justification to go and spy on Donald Trump, that was raw intelligence, right? Unverified. And we know it was all made up. Well, these Russian memos were also raw intelligence, but obviously they could have been easily corroborated. So the big scandal here is that the FBI and the intelligence community and the Obama administration has two basically pieces of raw intelligence, right? One is the Steele dossier that Trump's colluding with Putin, and the other is raw intelligence from the Russians that are actually throwing evidence back in front of the Obama administration's face, even detailing the corrupt activities they're involved in to make all this go away. And so they dismiss all of the raw intelligence from the Russians, which could have been easily corroborated, in an effort not to look into Hillary Clinton and what she's doing. And they elevate the raw intelligence from the Steele dossier, which we know had no basis in reality whatsoever, as a justification to go after President Trump. And so it's just a really, really shocking thing when you read these Russian memos and realize that at the same time that the Obama administration was trying to look away from Hillary Clinton, the Russians are actually throwing that evidence back in front of their faces. And so, what are they going to do? They have to just ignore it.
Okay, so this is why I recommend people get this book, because you're going to have to get immersed in the details here and understand this, particularly on the actual disclosures. And I think it's very important to get to this. So you got the book, the Clinton hoax, the Obama coup. And this tells you why Tulsi Gabbard is such a central part. Now, she's the one President Trump has designated to go down to Georgia. She's not down Georgia for her health. She's down Georgia for a reason, because the railhead of this continues in the stolen 2020 election. Tulsi Gabbard's also vitally important because of her really being the dissenting voice on what we now know. The New York Times, for instance, story, oh, yeah, we all knew that the Israeli intelligence was, well, hang on. At the time, Tulsi Gabbard was the only dissenting voice, not the CIA, not Marco, not JD, none of them. She was the dissenting voice and brought the facts. Drew, Thomas, Allen, here's what I'm confused about. given that you make the case for it and it's laid out, it's not your opinion, you're laying out the facts in the documents. Why have we had no justice in this? We are now at the end of the first quarter of the second year of President Trump's second terms, and we're burning daylight. Why has the Justice Department, are you telling me that what's happening down, and by the way, John Solomon's going to be on starting Monday and has got some big revelations, but this audience has been with President Trump from the beginning and fought through this in 15 and 16 and 17 and 18 are wondering if these facts are so definitive, why in the hell has no one really done a perp walk? Well, why, John Strand spent a year in prison and 4 months in a hellhole solitary confinement. Why has no one been even charged in this situation, sir?
Yeah, a few reasons. I mean, the first is that the deep state is as powerful as, people maybe have come to understand since, Trump brought attention to it starting in, 2016. There were efforts, sort of. I mean, they weren't really efforts. I mean, like if you look at the investigations into Trump-Russia collusion, whether it's Durham or Horowitz, those weren't sincere investigations. These are the very people who kept this Russian intel info, for example, declassified so that we couldn't get the full story. So even the so-called good guys who were supposed to look into this and get to the bottom of it, they were helping cover it up as well. And I think there's a fear factor, unfortunately. I think that just like BLM or, violence from the left, we see how unhinged they are. I think there's some sort of fear factor over there because these people are unmoored from morality completely. And so, a lot of, unfortunately, I think well-intentioned people make their decisions based on.
But hang on. But you agree, given your research, given you're tying all the pieces together, because there's been other books out there, but you've got the latest declassified information from Tulsi Gabbard. Is there any doubt in your mind that we need a major set of tribunals to put these people on trial, try them and put them in prison, remove them from the federal government and put them in prison?
Yes, they have to be. I mean, that's one of the big arguments of the book in the end, which is the reason we're in the dire situation we're in now, which is actually just as dangerous, if not more dangerous than a few years ago, is that there's been no accountability. And you're seeing an attempted effort now, a second effort, to go after, the former FBI director, James Comey. But that's not enough. I mean, you're talking about hundreds of people involved in this. And of course, it goes to the very top with Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. And I mean, the American people, obviously, certainly MAGA, are sick and tired of seeing none of these people held accountable. And they get more vicious and they get more desperate. The longer these crimes against the country go on, you could go into COVID, you could go into a number of things. There's never any accountability for these people whatsoever. And obviously someone like John Strand goes to prison for, walking around the Capitol building. And these people committed a soft coup against this nation and they're walking free.
Drew, hang on for 1 second. I'm going to hold you through the break. Birch Gold. Make sure, by the way, a simpler way, maybe, if you don't want to take the time to go through everything about the dollar empire and the reserve currency, take your phone and text Bannon, Bannon, 989898. Get the ultimate guide for investing in gold and precious metals in the age of Trump. You get direct access to Philip Patrick and the team. It's totally free and no obligation. We're trying to get people up the learning curve. Short break.
Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Okay, we're live tomorrow, 10 to noon, and we're going to spend more time on capital markets, the war, the Islamabad, what's going on, also artificial intelligence, a lot on that. The book is sold out right now from Birch Gold, Into the Dollar Empire. The first 7 free installments are now bound. You can get it by, getting on a waiting list. Go to birchgold.com, promo code Bannon, talk to Philip Patrick team, but also get on the list for that. Or you get all 7 installments free online, and the 8th installment's there about the pressure on the U.S. dollar. So check it out today. Drew Thomas Allen, I'm really pressed for time, but I got to ask 2 things. Number one, you just said it's more dangerous now than it was then. Hey, brother, they've crushed President Trump's first term. They basically put in a false president in 2020. What could get worse, my man?
Yeah, look, I mean, all the deep state and all these people are waiting in the wings to come back and get revenge, obviously. And you see this combination of desperation, but also they're emboldened because there's been no accountability. So they want to get back to being in power. And look, I mean, you go back to Benghazi. to the stolen election of 2020, Trump-Russia collusion. You fast forward to the unprecedented lawfare of 2024. I mean, every one of those is an escalation by them. And so we've got temporary power right now, but they haven't stopped and they're hungry to continue. So I think we're in a more dangerous position now than we were even a few years ago.
Okay, real quickly, you wrote a really great book on Charlie Kirk and Christianity. John Strand was just sitting here a minute ago saying, hey, after a year in prison, he says, Christian men got to step up here and take this country back. Was Charlie Kirk, was he a profile in courage for that, sir?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, his death absolutely changed my life. That's why I wrote the book. I mean, it's called For Christ and Country, the Martyrdom of Charlie Kirk. But it's a personal testimony. And really, the big thing for me in all of this is that, John Strand was talking about the need for Christians to stand up. Everybody needs to become their own version of Charlie Kirk. And Charlie Kirk was unique because he sought out debate and he had conviction. That conviction came from his Christian faith. It didn't come from anywhere else. So people who are scared out there, scared to speak out, that's because you're not putting your faith first and you're fearing the condemnation of man more than that of God. And so, this book, especially though, Stephen, as we talk about conspiracy theories and whatnot related to, surrounding Charlie Kirk's death, we had a big missed opportunity because we know the left is violent, and we know that the transgender community in particular is kind of the tip of the spear of that. Violent. And this was an opportunity, I hate to use that word, but to kind of finish off the left by showing the world who they were. And instead, we didn't take that opportunity. We've been infighting.
Drew, where do people go? You got a podcast, you're putting up great content, you're on social media, you got your books. Where do folks go?
Yep. You can subscribe to my Substack, drewallen.substack.com. On X and social media, it's at Drew Thomas Allen. And then, I recently joined the Daily Signals as a commentator over there, where the great Victor Davis Hanson is as well. So that covers the gamut.
Amazing. Rob Bluey's Daily Signal is one of the best. Great that you're over there. Thank you, sir. Look forward to having you back. Everybody go get the book on the coup. It'll inform you of the work we got ahead of. He's 100% right. If we lose the midterms and somehow we don't win in 2028, trust me, they're going to come looking for people to send them to prison because these people are demons.